If there were ever a piece of tech that's designed to make core memories between friends and family, especially kids, it's probably going to be this projector I've been using for the last week. As fall time gets a little bit crispy outside and we head into spooky season, I figured I'd use this to host a movie night for all the kids in my neighborhood, which I can say made for an absolutely unforgettable evening. This is the brand new soundcore Nebula X1 Pro, which is the world's first true mobile theater station, and I've had a good time jumping into this one, and it really is insane. With its 4K triple laser image, pop-out speakers that give true 7.1.4 Dolby Atmos surround sound, and a massive 200-inch inflatable screen bundle option, I've never seen anything like this whatsoever. Now what makes this a little bit more special as well is the fact that Nebula is now a part of soundcore, meaning audio has become a huge focus for this theater experience, and it really is equally important when it comes down to an audio-visual experience overall. I do want to give a huge thanks to soundcore Nebula for sponsoring this video and this night of fun for my neighborhood and sending over this beast of a theater setup. Now, if you ever wanted a movie theater experience but a little bit more personal, this can easily be set up in a backyard, a living room, camping, or you can host a movie night like I did with your neighborhood. With young kids of my own, this really made for an unforgettable experience, which is the first of many to be had with something like this. If you've seen any of my previous videos as well, you might already know I actually use a projector for about 12 hours a day in my studio space, not even for actively watching things or gaming, but simply just the aesthetic in my space. Although naturally as well, this will be good for content and gaming. As for everything you need, it's going to come in these two boxes, one of which is going to have the theater system and the projector, and the other is going to be that 200-inch inflatable screen. Now diving into this thing, you've got the main projector unit alongside the wireless surround sound speakers, a remote, as well as two wireless microphones. Because yes, karaoke is a thing with this, which I will touch on. The remote is backlit, which is great since naturally you will be using this in a dark environment. Otherwise, there are some backlit controls on the theater unit itself, which did come in clutch on our movie night. The subwoofer is built right into the theater unit itself, and trust me when I say the bass on this thing is absolutely absurd, and it does give you those solid movie theater low ends. There is also a cover for the unit as well, which is going to keep this thing a little bit more protected when stored or in travel, so one less thing to worry about. Now the inflatable screen itself isn't included in the standard bundle with the theater system, but everything you need for the theater setup itself is included. So if you will just be primarily using this indoors, you don't have to get the inflatable screen, but trust me when I say it does add to the whole experience, especially outdoors. Similar to the theater unit itself, there is a carrying case for the screen, as well as some pouches for the pump and even a repair kit if you need it. Hopefully I will never need this. Now when it comes down to the actual build and design of this projector unit, this thing is definitely rugged and meant to be used, which I appreciate considering the typical places you would use this thing for any sort of events or movie nights. Again, it's pretty rugged for any sort of accidental hits, and it's even IP43 rated, which is good in case your outdoor time decides to get rained out. It will give you the opportunity to pack this whole thing up, otherwise some light spinning is still okay. Opening up the top here, there is a lit compartment, which is perfect because again, you will be using this in the dark, and this does house both the remote for the projector alongside the two karaoke microphones. And naturally, you might be wondering about the ports as well, and I can say that this does have an HDMI port for any sort of consoles or HDMI devices. You have two Type-C ports, which can also be used to charge those microphones I mentioned, and of course you do have a USB Type-A port, which can be perfect for any media you want to carry on a USB, especially if you are outside and don't have access to a network. Any USB media will be perfect. Overall, the theater system is rather heavy, but at the same time, it is sort of portable. This does have a built-in quick release handle, which you can use to sort of roll this system around, and the wheels are pretty robust, so this will work on any sort of, uneven brick or grass, which I did have to walk across both for this setup. If you do need to lift this off the ground as well, there are some solid handles here that you can grab onto, and a nice little touch here is that there is a cover to block a lens whenever you're not actually using this. Now as for power, this does have a 2-meter long retractable power cable, which does help save you from bulky external power supplies. And of course, I will talk more about the sound as well, but each speaker connects directly to the X1 Pro through dedicated Wi-Fi, which does give an incredible stable connection as well as sound quality. When I was setting this up, as soon as I started playing music, it was actually infectious how quickly people got excited about this, including myself. You can read all about how amazing the sound is of this projector, but once you actually turn it on, it really is a whole different experience. Now each of these do look like an individual Bluetooth speaker, but when you combine them together, it really is insane. The front two do have an 80-watt audio output, IP54 weather rating. Otherwise, these do have 8 hours of battery to work with, so you can play multiple movies if you need to. The rear speakers are vertical mounted with up to 40 watts of audio output, and they do have the same Type-C and weather rating as the two front speakers. Overall though, this does give you an insane audio setup. Whenever you're done as well, these simply connect back to the X1 Pro, and they will charge up automatically whenever the whole system is plugged in. Now as for setting up my whole movie night, the 200-inch screen inflated in just a few minutes, and typically you would only require some stakes in the ground and maybe some of the added water bags if you need that extra security. But when I say we had everything against us throughout this evening between wind and a little bit of rain. I can truly say soundcore thought of everything to get this thing secure. So I did end up using the ground stakes, I did use those water bags, and I did even use the side tethers on the actual screen itself, which still made this all possible. So kudos to soundcore for not letting the wind ruin our evening. Now back to that surround sound. You can mount some of the individual speakers to the frame of the screen itself, which does help give a better sound experience with the on-screen positioning. If you're not mounting them to the screen, each speaker still has a set of little kickstands you can fold out, and you can sort of place them wherever you might need to, so you still have some freedom as to where you need to place these in your space. I will say, while there was definitely excitement before we even started this whole movie night, once people actually saw how massive the screen was, word got around insanely fast, and we ended up having a much larger turnout than we anticipated. The whole time I was setting up as well, I actually had this in speaker mode and just blasting some music for the kids. One thing that actually surprised me about this was how everything automatically connected, including the microphones, which I will touch on in a bit. Now with that, setup is easy enough with the projector by simply turning it on, and it will auto keystone, it'll adjust the image and focus to match the screen perfectly right off the bat. Now for myself, between the wind, the rain, the lumpy flooring, being able to adjust my image on the go was actually a huge plus. Nebula has made this easy with their IAA 5.0, which does stand for Intelligent Environment Adaptation. Again, for myself, that green field we have in our neighborhood is a bit lumpy and isn't really the best for a level display, yet with this projector's AI special adaptation, it does scan the screen and the environment to give you the best perfect zoom and adjustments, and this doesn't just go for the screen as well. I did have a huge game session and movie night in the basement for myself. Yes, a little bit selfish, but it did also scan my wall perfectly in the basement. There is a tiny built-in gimbal here which does tilt up to 25 degrees to compensate for an area like mine, so I didn't really have to do any sort of crazy screen fitting or leveling. The projector just sort of does it for me. Even in my basement, my wall is a little bit higher because I have a couch there, there's also a window, and it did adjust my screen to fit my wall perfectly even with those obstacles. Likewise, using the 4-mic array on the theater system itself, the X1 Pro does guide you through the perfect speaker placement by scanning the surroundings and adjusting the audio to give you the best audio experience. The whole setup process is super smooth start to finish, which is important, especially when it comes down to excited kids waiting for a movie night. Now, getting this whole thing set up and powered on though, to see the actual image and sound of this theater system is actually bonkers. And I have to give kudos where it's due. The 3500 ANSI lumens is actually incredibly bright. With young kids, of course, on this specific movie night, we did have to start around dusk, so it wasn't entirely dark out, and even then the image still looked excellent. Getting into the evening as it gets darker as well, it's easy to say this looks even better in a darker environment, and the Nebula X1 Pro puts out an incredible image with incredible colors that pop. And yes, for the cinema buffs like myself, this does have Dolby Vision support, including 110% Rec 2020 color gamut coverage, so color accuracy is great to the source material. Since we are getting into spooky season as well, we went with an animated movie for the kids like Hotel Transylvania, which showcases some incredibly amazing scenes between bright and happy, or a bit darker and spookier. The 5000:1 contrast ratio on this projector handled the scenes incredibly well, and this did carry incredibly well into other content I had the pleasure of testing out, like one of my all-time favorites, Ninja Turtles from the 1990s, and of course it did super well for Hotel Transylvania. The first movie night with the kids went so well, I ended up selfishly having a second night all for myself in my basement to dive into some more of the content that I actually wanted to test and watch. The image overall is incredibly sharp as well, which I can attribute to the 14 element glass lenses inside the projector, which really does end up giving you that movie theater experience. If you've seen any of my recent videos as well, you know I'm studying film and cinematography, and my current favorite era of film are the darker and grittier films from the 90s and the 2000s because of the darkness and the shadows alongside the bright highlights. Back then, movies would simply allow shadows to be shadows, and on a projector like this, it's not just a flat gray blob, it really does indeed look like a shadow, so I am really impressed with that. Now, if you do want to take your image a little bit step further, you can enhance your contrast ratio up to 56,000:1 with the Nebular Master enhancements alongside dynamic iris adjustments. This pretty much analyzes your content on screen and having the projector adjust the dimming zones and HDR mapping scene by scene. Again, between myself and my neighborhood, everyone was sort of blown away with the experience at this, and selfishly, again, this was amazing for myself when it comes down to gaming. Naturally as well, I did have some parents asking me for a follow-up adults night, so we're going to see how that goes. Now, when it comes down to the sound, it's equally important to the image, since your image could be as beautiful as ever, but if the sound isn't good, your audience likely won't stick around. I can say easily with confidence the sound on this setup is absolutely exceptional. Again, coming in with a 7.1.4 Dolby Atmos setup, you've got a 14 driver speaker system that all connects wirelessly to give you the best possible positions you need for that overall better experience. Sound wise as well, the total output is 400 watts, which is actually kind of crazy, and this of course is going to be between the front speakers, the rear speakers, and the sub. This does get up to a massive 107 decibels of powerful output as well, so you will want to be a little bit courteous to your neighbors if you're using this indoors or out. And not that a YouTube video will do much justice, here's a quick sound test. Now going into this whole experience, I was a little bit skeptical on how well it would actually sound, or otherwise I thought the latency might be a little bit weird between moving mouths with wireless speakers and stuff, but surprisingly this is where soundcore flexes its muscles since everything literally worked perfectly. If I sound like a fanboy right now, I apologize, but I am now popular in my neighborhood because of this whole experience. Even out here in my open space, the sound was absolutely incredible. You can place this indoors and outdoors and the audio adjusted perfectly well. Now why this matters is because everyone's going to be seated a little bit differently around the spot of the projector, and having the audio perfectly adjusted allows everybody to have a good immersive experience, even if not sitting dead center. Now what had me the most impressed with this one in terms of the audio has probably got to be the low ends, because I could literally feel this in my feet while the movie was playing. I wanted to visually get an idea of this, so I literally lit a candle in front of the subwoofer to see how much this would move around. And naturally as well, dialogue is going to be excellent. Each individual sound effect is noticeable. Even outdoors, we didn't have to pump the audio all the way up to max, and this still turned out incredibly well for the entire movie night. Now obviously the movie and theater experience is going to be absolutely awesome, but throwing this up indoors, even without that massive screen, is still a blast. The best part is, even inside, because those speakers are wireless, you can sort of set these up wherever you want in your space, and this made for an incredible time gaming. For myself, my favorite thing to do after a long day is gaming, so naturally I did spend some time here on my PlayStation 5 Pro. In this case, I was primarily playing at 4K 60Hz, which made for a seriously good gaming experience, especially for titles like Hogwarts Legacy or The Last of Us Part 2. Games like this more so lean into the fidelity and the graphics, and 4K 60 is a bit of a sweet spot for these more cinematic titles. Input lag wise, this is a projector, so the less competitive titles will likely be your go-to on here, so you won't actually be pushing a competitive rank on a projector, but if you still want to throw down some of those matches in something like Marvel Rivals or something, this can get down to a 19 millisecond response time if you are using the game mode. Overall, I can say the gaming experience on here was absolutely massive and still a good time. Now, as for some of the other features on the projector, it doesn't stop at the theaters, it doesn't stop at gaming, and it doesn't stop at content. We do have those two microphones I spoke about before, which makes this great for a karaoke evening, and if anybody else does have kids that are addicted to K-pop Demon Hunters, you must already know how catchy those songs are, and my 4-year-old daughter is convinced she's Mira. Now the microphones do have a 40-hour battery life on here and a super low 15 millisecond latency, which does make for a great party experience, so if you're looking for a more inclusive time one-on-one or in a group, this is absolutely perfect. One thing that actually had me shocked with this is how well the AI vocal remover actually worked. The crazy part as well, I tested this AI vocal remover on YouTube, Spotify, and Netflix itself, and all of these worked with every song I tested, which is kind of crazy. Now there are 3 levels to vocal removal, which worked incredibly well. There's off, number 1, which lowers the vocals, and then number 2, which almost removes it completely. Likewise, these mics sound super loud, and they do have their own volume adjustments, which is fantastic. So this is a great feature I simply wasn't expecting to work as well as it did. Now naturally, separately from karaoke, this is still a projector, so the times you are using it indoors, you're gonna have everything you need to dive into your own personal content, since this does run off of Google TV, so it does have all those apps built in like Netflix, Disney+, Apple TV, YouTube, or otherwise, again, you can plug in another system like myself, which I use my PlayStation 5 Pro, and not that you would really notice it outdoors anyways, this projector does run super quietly. Now typically you see gaming PCs with liquid cooling, but that technology has made it into this projector, which is crazy, and this does end up running at a whisper quiet 26 decibels, so even indoors at max load, you're not even going to hear this, and definitely not outdoors. As for safety, the first night I didn't have eye guard enabled on here like a silly goose, when I should have, and these children decided it would be fun to play shadow puppets, but on night 2 I did end up having eye guard enabled, and this works well for protecting eyes. Otherwise, during teardown of this projector on movie night, I was still blasting music, and the kids had an incredible time. Now overall, the Nebula X1 Pro is absolutely absurd when it comes down to both indoors and outdoor entertainment. This really is a mobile theater station wherever you might want to go, and there is no sacrificing in the experience whatsoever. Now obviously this is going to be great for family with kids, and that's where I land in my experience with this projector, but who else would this thing be for? Well, my first thought comes down to HOAs or condo corporations. Businesses, of course, would be a good one. Otherwise, churches, or really anybody who just wants what could be the world's best consumer level portable theater. While a lot of projectors can focus on visuals, often that focus doesn't translate to audio as much. Now for the X1 Pro at least, it truly does encompass every single thing you need for a theater package, and it can be more affordable than buying a projector and a sound system separately. Now with that, this is still more than definitely a premium package, coming in at a price point of $4,999. However, there is an early bird pricing of $2,999, which I will have linked down below if you do want to check it out. This setup was such a hit with the parents. I literally had people asking me if they could rent it off me for birthday parties, which is something I might possibly consider as a side gig going forward. But for an overall insane experience for a theater setup, you can bring this thing anywhere. This comes with a huge amount of value, but I'd love to hear what you guys think about this thing and what you would watch on here. For now, I will continue to host these movie nights for the neighborhood whenever we can, and I look forward to getting some more gaming time on here. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching till the end. Till next time.